Welcome to Homestead Reptile. Today with me is Earl Grey, my Valley Garter Snake. And I'm going to talk to you guys why ball pythons suck, part 2. This is an opinion. I'm going to compare them, but this is mostly about the ball python breeding industry compared to the garter snake breeding industry. So 90% of your ball pythons, the baby that you purchase from an expo or pet shop, they mostly come, the parents and the babies, from racking systems. I do not like racking systems. I think they are sad little boxes, sad little like snake compartments. Sometimes they get light, sometimes they get no light, and it's depressing. So it's a snake that gets relatively big in this tiny box. So this is the larger racking system. This is a 44 quart racking system. Ball pythons are big, they get very thick around, and these things are shallow. 44 quarts, that's tiny. And then you have 15 quarts. You know what a 15 quart is good for? A cat litter box. And I would say that's a little shallow for a cat litter box. It needs to be a little taller for your cat to poop in and not kick out litter. Garter snakes are generally kept in 40s, 29s, and 10s. And this depends on the age of the snake. So a tiny baby who's 6 to 5 inches, maybe getting up there at that 9-inch, might be going into a 10. And your big, busty 26-inch females are going to be in that 40. Your smaller males are going to be in that 29. Why are ball python breeders keeping them in these small, depressing places? It's sad. The average Joe Smo that I show like pictures of, oh, this is how ball python breeders keep that. It's like, isn't that kind of small for that snake? It's like, that looks kind of sad. Why are they like that? That's sad. I get that all the time when I show people what the average ball python keeper breeding setup looks like. It's sad. So point 2. This is just how ball pythons are. Ball pythons are not an active snake. They are an ambush predator. They wait for food to come through a trail or whatever, and they grab it and eat it. They are also nocturnal. So it is fact they are not as active, anywhere near as active as a garter snake. A garter snake is an active predator. You can almost say they're somewhat of a pursuit predator. So there are videos out there where a garter snake is hunting a frog, and this garter snake is tongue flicking. He's looking up, he's doing a lot of tripoding, and he's wobbling his head to try to locate exactly where that scent is. He can't quite find that frog, so he circles back. And as he gets closer, the frog is getting more scared. And then the frog's like, I gotta make a break for it. And the garter snake sees it, a very visual predator, sees it, and then he darts. He's just moving fast, and he chases that frog down. The frog's leaping far ahead. Snake's faster, catches it, does not wrap it, but bites it and just muscles it down and hunts it down and eats it. That is an active pursuit predator compared to a ball python, which is an inactive ambush predator. You can see it the way the garter snake's body design is. They're very slender, they're very agile, they're very alert, they're very visual, and they're social. They're just a more active and a more intelligent snake. That is just a fact. It's just the way they are. Ball pythons are not social. They are not active predators. They are perfect for what they do. An ambush predator that eats mostly rodents and will eat some nestlings every once in a while. It's just how they are. It's like, it is what it is. Point 4. Ball pythons have serious genetic disorders in certain morphs. They're just linked, and some of them, a lot of people are trying to phase them out, like the spider ball python. But if you're a new person into ball pythons, you're getting your first snake, you go to an expo, and sometimes there are breeders that are super dishonest and will say it's not a spider ball python, and you did your research, it doesn't look like a spider ball python, but it has a ton of other genetic stuff stacked into it, and it is a spider ball python, and now you have a pet with a wobble. And there's some other things that are wrong with them too. So another thing, this is again with point 4, ball pythons suffer from more illnesses than a garter snake. And this is not all the ball python's fault. A lot of this is bad husbandry. But because ball pythons are relatively inexpensive, especially a normal male, you can find them anywhere. You don't have to put in any research to find your ball python. They can have respiratory issues, and this is a husbandry thing. Garter snakes mostly, this is wild garter snakes, have fungal diseases. And again, this is mostly found in wild garter snakes. Your regular captive garter snakes are not going to have these fungal issues. And a lot of this comes down to bad husbandry. But I see more bad husbandry practices around ball pythons than I do see garter snakes. And I think it's just because, again, this is not necessarily a very fair comparison, and I don't know how I would make it very fair. There are less garter snakes being sold in the United States versus ball pythons. So if you go to Morph Market, there's a ridiculous, insane amount of ball pythons being sold right now. If you look at garter snakes, there's 2 pages of garter snakes. So that's about maybe 20 snakes being sold at a time. And a lot of garter snake breeders actually don't even use Morph Market, especially a lot of the big ones. They have their own pages, and people will be on a waiting list, and you will get a garter snake. You don't see the same thing with ball pythons. So, point 5. Now, again, this is not necessarily a ball python thing, but this is any snake that's a rodent eater. So, new people that want a snake, especially little kids who really want a pet reptile, and reptiles are pretty easy pet to care for, especially compared to a mammal, and they want a snake, and their parents are like, okay, little Timmy, we're gonna get you a snake, and he settles on a ball python. Ball pythons are rodent eaters, and then the parents are like, we're not having rodents next to the ice cream, little Jimmy. That's gross. I don't want their little beady eyes staring at me. So either little Jimmy's parents are gonna have to get him a special freezer to keep his little rodents in, or maybe the parents sit down with little Jimmy and is like, okay, little Jimmy, could there be another species of snake that doesn't have to eat rodents? And that's the garter snake. So rodents should be at the top of their food pyramid. They really shouldn't have much of a diet of rodents at all, and they can go completely without rodents. And you would think, night crawlers, ew, why would those people want worms in their fridge? Now, I don't know why, but people are more offended by frozen rodents next to your ice cream than a tub of worms next to your bacon. I don't know why. I think it's maybe because the worms are in a sealed container that, not saying the rodents aren't, but I think it's because they're in a sealed container. They're not see-through, and it's just a little bit more acceptable to them. Now, this is to each their own. Because, again, garter snakes really shouldn't be eating much rodents at all, especially eastern garter snakes. And there are some garter snakes that are pretty much just eat a diet of fish. There are some garter snakes that are very, very aquatic, and they should just be eating fish. But you don't have to feed rodents. And I know that is a pro to a lot of people that don't like feeding rodents, because ball pythons are a rodent eater. And sometimes when you get a baby ball python, you're a new breeder, they go off food, they don't want to eat, and then sometimes you're forced to feed them live prey animals. And some people don't like that. And I can't blame them. So it's stressful on the snake to eat a live animal, and it is also stressful on that living animal, a rodent, to feed a live animal. And then you'll say, what about those poor worms that are alive and the snake are eating them? So I kind of consider a worm slightly different from a mouse, and I pre-kill the worms too, and I chop them up, and that's mostly just for garter snake infighting. So in the end, I'm a worm murderer. I murder the worms for them. I don't like doing it, but that's just how they eat. And again, you could skip the whole worm thing for them if you had a bigger snake, but they do love their worms and they appreciate worms. But if you're squeamish about feeding worms, then you probably shouldn't own any types of snakes, because snakes are carnivorous. There's no snake that is not carnivorous. But this is an option for people that do not want to feed rodents. And again, it is not garter snakes and ball pythons are completely different. It's just a different option for people. I find ball pythons to be a very boring snake, but you might find them to be an extremely exciting and engaging snake. You might like a snake that can just sit on your shoulder and do nothing. I like a snake that is active and buzzing about and doing things. And someone left this comment, and I totally agree with this. So some people don't want a snake that is having snakes that are like a fish tank where they're buzzing around and doing things. I'm a fish keeper. I love that. I love having something that is super interactive with its environment. I love seeing them swim in their pond. I love seeing them hunt for their worms. I love seeing them. I'll make little food scent trails and hide food different places. I love seeing them chase food down and get excited about food. I love seeing them come out of their enclosure when I open their door, and they're excited to see me because they think I'm going to give them food. I love just seeing them interact with each other. I love seeing them cuddle up in their cuddle balls together and bask. I love seeing the different friend groups like to be around each other. It's fun, it's interesting, and it's a totally different experience that you really won't get with any other species besides garter snakes. That social structure is so unique and interesting. And there's so many different beautiful colors and morphs. And I personally think garter snakes are easier to care with. They don't go off food except around winter when they kind of want to go to burmate. And they don't completely go off, they just want to sleep a little bit more. But ball pythons will go off of food for whatever reason, and it freaks a lot of new people out. Um, but again, this is my opinion. Most of the stuff I don't like about ball pythons are realistically, I find them boring. Some people might not find them boring. And I'm assuming a ton of people don't find them boring because they're an extremely popular snake. But they're also one of the most, they're a popular snake, but they're the most abused snake I think I've ever seen in the hobby. A lot of, it's sad. And I don't see that with garter snakes. And again, there's not as many breeders, but there's also a lot of demand for them. I have a lot of people asking me when I'm going to sell garter snakes or when my next litter is going to be available. And that's not for a while. And I'll let them know when I have some litters available, but they're easier. I think they're just more engaging to me. I just like them. It's like they stare right back at you. They know who I am. And I have a garter snake babysitter when I'm out of town. And they know who that person is now. And they're okay with them. It's like, oh, you're the second food feeder. It's like you're the second hand that comes in here and messes with our stuff and feeds us. We're okay with you. And they know different people. It's like, you're strange. You don't feed us. I don't know about you yet. Until you start handling them and then you offer them some treats. And it's like, okay, now I'm cool with you. You've given me some worms. You're a good person. That's what I like about them. They're an engaging little species. They're super friendly. And again, it's like for as small as they are brave little snakes. They are so brave. Ball pythons can be a little skittish and kind of like, oh, everything's kind of scary to you. Once a garter snake settles in, they're just like zooming about and doing stuff. It's just how they are. They're fun and engaging species. Now, like and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments. And again, this is an opinion. Don't take it too seriously. If you love your ball pythons, more power to you. You should love the pet you picked. It's a different personalities pick different types of pets. I am an active person. I like active pets.